Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Alessandro and I'm a photographer and filmmaker based in a small town in the Italian Alps. Most of my work takes me outdoors or on documentary projects all around the world, but today I took on a personal challenge a bit closer to home. Documenting your own neighborhood can be tricky. It's something we see every day and it can feel a bit dull compared to an epic trip to the other side of the world. But I think that's why it's such a valuable creative exercise. Focusing at something familiar forces you to look at the ordinary with fresh eyes, to find stories where you might usually overlook them. So for this first video on the channel, I decided to rely on my Fuji X100V for photos and my Canon C70 for videos. Normally, I shoot work stuff with my Canon R6 Mark II, but for a personal project like this, I like using the Fuji. It's compact and lightweight, and having just one fixed lens keeps things simple, forcing me to be intentional with each shoot. And yet, when paired with my C70, bringing along the R6 makes things a bit too heavy and bulky for a full day around town, so it's not the best choice. Still, shooting with the C70 did have its own challenges. You know, in some situations I realized I'd actually felt a bit awkward. People look at me like I was disturbing them. So for a few shots I decided to switch to my iPhone 15 Pro Max, shooting in ProRes. As I went through the day, I kept up with my daily habit of journaling. I always take a moment to jot down my thoughts, and so I decided to share some of those in this video as a way to bring out the feelings behind the images you will see. November 5th, 2024, 5:30 in the morning. It's cold, more than expected. Everything's still, town completely empty. Just a few lights, an alarm in the distance. Thought I'd find the cafe open, the usual crowd of old men sitting around with their coffees, reading newspapers. But nothing, it's dead quiet. Almost like life's giving me some kind of reminder. Do not expect anything. So as the morning started, I honestly expected to find a bit more life here. I was hoping to capture some of those classic Italian morning scenes with people at the cafes drinking espresso, but my hometown has a quieter rhythm, especially at this hour. So I ended up mostly photographing empty streets, which wasn't quite what I had in mind, but you know, it's part of the game. Another challenge I ran into was the color composition. The warm street lights and the yellow tones of the buildings made it tough to create the kind of contrast I usually aim for. You know, the narrow streets didn't help either, making it difficult to work with the sunrise light and the color. I ended up to capture some of the blue hour tones, trying to balance them with the yellow tones from the lights. Once the sun came up, I noticed there weren't any dramatic cuts of light to play with, so instead of forcing it, I decided to wait and see if the town would wake up, hoping for a different atmosphere to document. "3 p.m. climbing up to the top part of the town. It still feels empty, with barely a soul around. There is the smell of burning wood in the air. It's empty, but somehow it feels like home. The calm here, it just brings a sense of peace, makes me feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Later that day, I decided to head up to the highest part of the town. It's on a hillside with narrow streets and a few houses. Here you can find people working in the farms and the fields. It was mid-afternoon and I was hoping to catch a softer light compared to the morning, so I waited for the sun to get slower to play with the light in the streets. Everything just feels a bit more alive with that light, even though it was still really quiet. I tried to capture that calm feeling in the shots, focusing on wide and empty areas, as well spending some time noticing details here and there. As the sun started to go down, I moved outside the town, toward the fields and the farms, looking for the golden hour through the valley. It felt like a good way to wrap up the day. 4 p.m. I met a local farmer. He told me no one wants to work the land anymore and how his farm is slowly fading. It's just him and his 4 brothers now, holding on to what's left. As he talked, I felt a deep nostalgia, a sadness for a way of life that's slipping away. People lock themselves in offices while the fields, the air, the open sky, they are all waiting. As the golden hour hit, I decided to visit the fields around town. There was this courtyard, part of an old building, just glowing in the soft, warm light. It had this classic Italian vibe. Then I saw this old man coming out of his farm. I don't know, there is something about talking to people who've been around here their whole lives, you know? So I went over, I asked him what he was up to. We started to talk about how the town's just changing. Fewer people working in the fields, younger folks moving away. I don't know, it's just something that makes me think. I wanted to take a portrait of him, but he wasn't into it, so I just focused on the farm itself, of all those little details. After that, I kept walking and met another guy out in the fields with his dog Penny. We talked a bit as the sun was setting, so I managed to get a few shots of him while we chatted. Just small moments, but somehow they felt like they captured something real.
Ma ciao! Ma ciao!
Right, so wrapping up this little project in my hometown, it really reminded me how challenging it can be to shoot in places you see almost every day. I mean, we pass by these spots all the time and after a while they start to feel, well, kinda ordinary, right? But that's where the real challenge comes in. You have to slow down, look a little closer and start noticing the small things, the shapes, the lights, all those little details that you usually miss. It's easy to get inspired when you're out traveling somewhere new, everything looks cool, but pushing yourself to find that same inspiration at home, yeah, well, that takes a bit more effort. So you have to really think about composition, especially sticking to one camera and one lens. It forces you to make intentional choices, to find, well, creative angles, especially when it's all so familiar. Maybe it's something you could try too. Just grab your camera, take a walk around your neighborhood and, I don't know, start snapping a few shots. Talk to people, hear their stories. You might be surprised at the things you find right around your corner. You don't have to go too far to capture something that matters. So yeah, that's it for this one. I've got more videos like this planned, so stay around to see what's next. If you made it to the end, thank you. It really means a lot to me. So yeah, see you in the next one.